Welcome to Heroes Have Wings, the podcast that gives a voice to the unsung heroes of Army aviation. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. For the Army aviators, crew chiefs, and flight medics who put it all on the line in the heat of battle, this is their opportunity to share untold stories of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. From their beginnings to the battlefield, you hear about their hardships, the moments of doubt, and how they overcame impossible odds to save lives. These warriors didn't just fight for survival, they put others above themselves, embodying the true spirit of heroism and selfless service. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Heroes Have Wings.
Well, I come back from the fourth deployment, February, new sun. The rest of the unit gets back in April, April 2013.
Yep.
April 2013. And then we spend the next, almost 2 years, year and a half or so, kind of chilling out in garrison, figuring out what it is, when we're going again. And somewhere about the 10, 12 month mark, we get notification that we're going back in March timeframe of 2015. So for me personally, I have another son during that time frame. I finished nursing school right before we're getting ready to go. So I walk into that deployment as a brand new registered nurse. And the landscape is, now we went from a medevac company in each regional command, east, west, north, and southwest on top of it, to one company, the whole area, plus one platoon in the southwest. So we're spread thin. We're spread real thin. So my platoon, we go to the one of the areas in RC East that's pretty one of the most kinetic areas. I've got a platoon of 2 aircraft, 3 crews, and a chase crew with some RTOs, and we're kind of sharing some space with some Apache guys. And it's not as busy, right? It's nowhere near as busy as it was those previous 2 deployments. Almost uncomfortable how not busy it is. But of the crew that I'm taking with me, nobody has any medevac experience. So I carry forward that enthusiasm that I've got to impart some of this wisdom on these other guys. Now, it's not just medics at this point, because I've got my platoon leaders, a former parachute rigger who's a brand new lieutenant, brand new pilot. All of my SP my IP for my platoon is a guy who worked the VIP mission for years, right? Which is a very different mission than the medevac mission, as you know, right? All the rest of my pilots are brand new pilots. They're brand new CW2s and an MTP who worked in a VIP mission as well, or something, or assault mission. My medics have 0 experience. First deployments, they've never deployed anywhere. My crew chiefs are in the same vein. Actually, one of my crew chiefs has a previous assault mission deployment, not medevac, and then my RTOs are both 19 years old. So I've got all the experience in this crew, and I've got to figure out how to make sure that I can make sure that these guys are ready to go. And my platoon isn't formed until really 2 or 3 months beforehand. So all the CTC rotations are over, all the training's over. We're on cruise control, letting people chill out until we get ready to go. So I've got all our equipment's packed up and getting ready to be sent. So I've got nothing.
So you guys aren't training at all. Everything's done. They put you guys, they put the roster together. Now it's time for you all to get deployed.
Yep. Right. And my roster is, hey, you're going to the most kinetic area of all of this. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
not as bad, right? You're not as busy from a medevac mission wise, but
Mm-hmm.
they're shooting at you in that deployment. I think we were there for 290 days. I think they shot 270
Dang.
rockets at us in 290 days, right? So we are a fan favorite. I've got all these guys, not a whole lot of missions. I think the guys the year before us, they said they ran maybe 20
Dang.
missions the whole 9 months that they were there. But every single one of them walked out with, a combat action badge and a valorous award of some sort, and this, that, and the other in those missions. Because every time they got launched, it was something to do. Now I've got to figure out how to get my guys reps in the face of 20
Mm-hmm.
missions,
Yep.
right? Um, so before we left, they told us this about over the secure internet stuff, that they weren't getting that busy. So I pack up a mannequin and some other training stuff, and I'm like, all right, well, if we're not that busy, I guess we're going to train our asses off, and that's just
Yeah.
what we do. I'll take a gator, I'll go drive out to the desert somewhere, I'll grab me a radio, and I'll shoot a text message to RTO to, hey, drop a fake 9 line, give them these grid coordinates. That's where we're
Mm-hmm.
going. And then we'll just go fly around for an hour or two and talk about what the medevac mission really and truly looks like. And we probably did that. I mean, we probably did that more days than we
Yeah.
didn't,
Yeah.
you know. If we were there 290 days, we probably did it 150, 160 times. Till the guys got tired of me and told me, no, we don't want to do this no more. We probably did another 20
Yep.
times after that. So that was it. That was very challenging for me because we
Mm-hmm.
weren't busy. We didn't have anything to keep our minds going. So I had to find ways to keep guys engaged and keep them from ripping at each other's throats. I had all guys, so it's a lot of
Yep.
testosterone. We lived right next to a Ford surgical team, so there were females there. So I had to figure out how to keep guys out of trouble, keep them engaged, keep their skills sharp at the same time. So I think at one point, the task force sergeant major came down and he asked it, like, how many of your guys are in school? And all my enlisted guys raised their hand. And he was like, man, what are you doing? Are you beating them to death? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I
Yeah.
beat them to death and make them go to school. Sure. No, man. We just tell them, well, hey, we ain't doing shit else. You better find something to do, right? Find something productive to do.
Being a leader and being through the 4 other deployments, especially the last 2 being as kinetic and busy as you were, how dangerous or how much was it on your mind knowing that if I didn't train these guys, they would get very complacent, and then the moment that I did need them to perform, they won't be able to perform because they're not trained up to standard and they have so much downtime. How much did you really, how much of a concern was that of yours, and how much did you think about it? Because you already addressed it with all the training, but was that a huge concern of yours? Or were you thinking that with this training, I'm at least keeping them somewhat ready?
So yeah, it was definitely a thought of mine all the time, which is why we train so much. I just find different. I just had to try and find different ways to keep guys engaged together.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest challenge for that deployment. Because yes, when we went out, it was some shit, right? We had mortars shot at us. We flew into firefights and stuff like that, but it just wasn't the volume that we were used to.
Mm-hmm.
It was, or that I was used to. It wasn't every day. It wasn't a whole bunch of critical care tail to tail transfers. It was probably a mission every 7 or 8 days. But when it was a mission every 7 or 8 days, the stakes were high,
Yeah. Okay.
right? It was the same level of intensity, just less frequency, so you don't get as many reps. Um, and I had to be prepared to deal with the fact that I was going to send somebody's son, because I had all guys, into a situation that they were ill prepared for. So I spent most of that deployment on first up. I took myself off of the duty schedule. I was not an active crew member on the aircraft anymore.
Hmm.
Um, I was just there as a second set of hands. My three other medics, they were all in a duty schedule, so they had to deal with the fighter management stuff, and I didn't. And I was just on the first up aircraft. I would just come out, move my stuff, brief with the crew, and say, I'm there if you need me, but I'm not looking your wife in the face and say why you ended up in that situation, ill prepared, ill advised, and I was sitting there sipping on a cup of coffee, watching it on the talk. I
Yeah.
couldn't live with myself that was going to be what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you're a leader's leader, meaning like like a coach's coach? The guy that's out there with his guys, always leading from the front, making sure everything is taken care of.
I tried to be. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to be in the moments where I felt the most impact was going to be there. I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
I wanted to be where the impact was. If there was a decision to be made, I didn't necessarily have to make it, but if you needed to lean on me to make it, I could say, "Yep, that's exactly what I would do," so
Mm.
that you could rest assured that, "Yep, I'm making the right decision,"
Yeah.
and you've got somebody to bounce that off of, so you're not on an island by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you wouldn't have to second guess yourself. I'm like, "Yep, I'd do the same thing. Let's get it."
Okay. What was your most memorable moment that last deployment?
My most memorable moment that last deployment. Oh man, favorable. We had a pilot, um, new pilot. He was a medic. Matter of fact, he was a medic. Became a pilot. Was a PI, and he got his PC ride somewhere around his birthday. So somehow, through a series of drug deals, I got the dining facility to make us a cake.
Mm-hmm.
We got some steaks flown out from
Yeah.
from our friends up in Bagram. Um, and we made some steaks. We had some cake. We celebrated this guy becoming a PC. He did not enjoy flying with our IP. He didn't like him as a person, but
Mm-hmm.
he understood, the value that he added to him as a pilot, and appreciated that very much so. Um, but that was a moment for me. We had cigars, we had bonfires, we did all those things, and it was just at the end of the night. This guy was an E7 prior to becoming a warrant officer, and he looked at me and he said, "You know what? I've never had an enlisted guy go this hard for much anybody in his crew, much less me. And I want you to know that I appreciate you for it. And I want you to know that don't stop being who you are." For me, that was important because that
Mm-hmm.
was seriously a concern of mine. I didn't want to disengage my folks. I didn't want my folks to be like, screw it. Fuck it. I'm just going to watch movies in my room all day and not get better every day. I'm not, I'm going to continue to hate XYZ person because that's just who I feel like being. Um, we took targeted strategies to combat that kind of stuff, which is, a consequence of boredom, not
Yeah.
having enough to do. So that was impactful.
And
And then,
just so the audience knows, medevac is essentially, just imagine, in some cases, not all, because Rahkeem already talked about 2 deployments where he was busy, just different types of busyness. But combat in general is, imagine hours and hours of boredom. You have to fill the shit with, I don't know, playing games, getting to know people, going to school, whatever the case, getting better at your craft, studying. Hours and hours of boredom with maybe 2 to 3 hours of just straight balls to the wall craziness, movie type shit. Like, what is going on? And you have to be ready. This may be happening at 2 o'clock in the morning while you're in a deep sleep as well. So that's just
mhm,
another added waking up. I'll tell people a little story about me real quick. When I was on first up, I always went to sleep fully dressed. Never took my boots off, never took any part of my uniform off, because getting that call, I wanted to make sure that I never missed a 7-minute mark, and I felt every little thing mattered, especially waking up from the middle of a deep sleep. Always went to sleep fully dressed, boots and everything, man, while I was on first up.
I understand that completely.
Yeah.
And for me, I was never the person to run to the talk. I was like, I don't care. Whatever you're going to tell me at the talk isn't going to make a bit of difference. I'm going straight to the helicopter.
Yeah.
I'm going regardless. For me.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a pilot, so I don't need some of that situational awareness, right?
Yep.
When we get to the helicopter, you can tell me how many patients we got. Okay, we got 3. Cool. Are they fitting here? Cool. If they're not, then we'll get another helicopter kind of thing. So that was the extent of my decision making. So excuse me, I would take my boots off, at least take my boots off. But know that I would run to my aircraft with my shoes untied because I could tie my boots while we was en route.
Yeah. What was your biggest takeaway from that last deployment, besides the fact of making sure you didn't lose yourself in the process of all the boredom and everything else not going on?
So that deployment for me was that was a pivot point. I felt like, not that I was a better leader than other people, but I felt like for me, the things that I valued as a leader wasn't shared across the organization. Right? The things that I wanted my soldiers to walk away from this experience was not the same thing that other leaders at my level or above my level didn't share the same enthusiasm. I had a number of other medics and crew chiefs at other platoons that would come rotate to my site. And they would come rotate to my site for a week or two and never get a mission. But they would look me in the face and say, I've learned more in the last 2 weeks with you than I have in the last 3 months at my site with my platoon sergeant. And I would just ask them, say, why is that? Right? Why is that? And the common theme was that they just didn't give a shit. They just didn't care. They only cared about themselves. And
why do you think that was?
I think that's the way the Army bred people to be at some point, right?
Especially in aviation.
Yeah, when you get to a certain level, when you get to a certain point in your career, it's about how you make yourself stand out to other people, against other people. And for me, that wasn't in what I could do on paper. For me, it was what my soldiers said about me. My raider, I don't give a shit what you think about me. My senior raider, I don't give a shit what you think about me. What I care about is what my soldiers walk away with. How much do they achieve? What do they get out of this?
Yeah.
That's what mattered to me. And I felt like I didn't share the same focus with the people who were at or above my level. And that continued. I felt like that was true, right? I would have command sergeants, major, first sergeants tell me that, you need to do this for you and do this and do that. I'm like, if I'm doing this for me, who's doing anything for them? When did we lose sight of why we were here? We're leaders, non-commissioned officers, leaders of soldiers. If I'm not leading them, who is?
Yeah.
And I think that was lost on a lot of people. So I kind of drew myself. I kind of just separated myself from those folks. And as the deployment went on and on and on, it became increasingly easier for me to say that I don't think that this is the place for me. If I get promoted again, my peers are going to be even more selfish. If I get promoted again, my peers are going to be even more self-centered. And I can't be a part of that.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it. And that hit home for me later that deployment. It was late in October, around this time in October of 2015. Early morning, we get woken up by our RTO and he goes, hey, some aircraft went down the in some Afghan compound. I'm like, okay, what they got to do with us? He was like, oh, there's 30 people in there trapped, blah 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 blah. So I come to the talk, and I'm just like watching the ISR feeds and all this other stuff, and there's a bunch of Afghan soldiers. There's two MI6s or something, MI8s or whatever they were, like kind of looked like they were parked in a compound, but I guess one of them had mechanically lost power or something like that, and they crashed, and something couldn't happen. So we go all day long planning this long mission to rescue these folks out of there. And I'm literally looking at people walking around. Nobody's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like these guys can just get in the back of a truck and go somewhere. And it gets up to the 2 or 3 star level that we're going to go rescue these guys. Somebody needs to go rescue these guys, and we're going to be it. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, when did that become the medevac mission? That doesn't make any sense to me. That this is like a lift mission, right? Why not send Chinooks in there, go grab these guys? And these guys are going to live. They don't need us. Not that I don't want to do it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So we take 2 aircraft and we go in there. It's nightfall, and that first aircraft enters the dust cloud, and there opens the fire from a house on the other side of the compound.
Damn.
That aircraft comes back with 1 engine, 1 wheel, 1 fuel cell. Roll on landing. Park it in the parking spot.
Damn.
2 soldiers are hit, and they get rushed to emergency surgery. And I'm incensed. I'm pissed because from the get go, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. And these 2 guys are in surgery. Why? Why? There was no purpose to this in my mind. And one of my RTOs, 19 years old, comes to me running and just hugs me. Now, this is the same guy I've probably given him an Article 15 or 2 because he was just being a knucklehead, right?
Yeah.
But it's coming from a place of love. He runs up to me, bear hugs me on the ramp. Bear hugs me like a little kid hugging his daddy. It was weird to an extent. Tears in his eyes. And I'm like, what were you good? He was like, I thought you was hit. I thought you was gone. I didn't know it was you. That moment stood out to me, right? This is a kid that faced non-judicial punishment, but still valued me enough that he ran out on that ramp to check on me.
Damn.
To make sure I was good. Other guy comes out because they're both up at this point. They're both awake. They're like, I ain't going to sleep and missing this, right? The other one comes out, and he's like, hey, the commander wants to talk to you. So I said, okay, I'm coming. I'll walk up there. And I walk up to the commander, and in my mind, I'm thinking 2 helicopters go into this thing. One of them takes fire. And what is my commander going to say to me? What do you think a commander is going to say to you at this point?
Make sure everybody's okay. How's everybody doing? Get a sit rep.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
A more of a health and welfare type thing.
Yeah. I pick up the receiver, and the first thing I hear is, who the fuck told you can go on this mission? And I said, excuse me? So you heard what I said. Who the F told you can go on this mission? I hung up the phone. And I walked away. I literally just hung up the phone. I walked away. Not 10 seconds later, Arthur was like, hey, commander's back on the phone. I said, okay. I turn around, pick up the phone. He goes at it again. And I said, are you serious? Like, is this the thing? Does it again. I hang up the phone. Not another 10 seconds. It comes back, calls again. I said, hey, before I had to hang up the phone again, sir, I said, I want you to know that you had an aircraft that just took rounds. You had soldiers on it. 2 soldiers got hit. Most commanders would ask if everybody was okay. That's the first thing out of people's mouth, rather than trying to figure out who's culpable for this decision.
Yep.
That's the first thing that people would ask. And that was the moment right there where I was like, yeah, it's time for me to go.
Damn.
That's time for me to go.
So you
because
knew at that
that's
moment that this was your last deployment.
yeah. I was like, this is it. I was waffling around with the idea. I thought about it, and I was like, I got options, this, that, and the other. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. Whatever, whatever. But at that moment, I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. I am done.
What happened with
Um,
that exchange with the commander? Did he say sorry?
I don't even. I really don't remember. He might
Yeah.
have. To be 100% honest with you, he might have. But I just at that point, I wasn't listening anymore. I was heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I
Dang.
was heartbroken that that's the way my leader felt about it. At a point when I could have used that. I could have used some. Hey, are you good?
Mm-hmm.
Right. More than anything, I could have used that, and that wasn't there for me. And it just doubled down on the fact that I needed to be that for my guys.
Yeah.
But this wasn't for me anymore. This wasn't for me anymore. This was a different band. This was a different brand of leader that just wasn't.
Yeah. Not your cup of tea. When you so
Yeah,
you get back from Afghanistan for the third time, and was it immediate? Like, was your time up? Like, I'm getting out. How did that whole
no,
transaction of you
so
transition out the
so
army?
funny enough, the brigade commander had came and saw me after this mission, and my decision was made. I had already started applying to jobs. I had already had a strategy.
This is in
Um,
Afghanistan.
in Afghanistan,
Damn.
he came and smoked cigars with me, and he said, "What do you need from me?" I said, "I need nothing than the signature when I'm ready to get out. When
Damn.
I'm ready to sign my declination of continued service, I just need a signature. That's it." And he said, "If that's what you really need, then you can have it." And I said, "Okay." That was the end of that conversation. When I got home on a Sunday. On Tuesday, we had the Monday off. I came in on Tuesday and saw the retention. The retention NCO was like on it. She was like, "Hey, you need to sign a, you need to go indefinite. You need to do this. You need to do that." And I said, "I'm going to sign a deck statement." She said, "You can't do that."
Were you E7
I
at
said,
this time?
"I was an E7. Yeah, I was
Okay.
an E7 for probably about a year or two at this point." Um, and I said, "Yeah, I'm going to sign a deck statement. I'm not continuing service." So you can't afford that. So I'm going to sign a deck statement. I'm out. I'm done. She's like, "Oh, no, 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 you can't do that. Colonel so and so, so and so, so and so." I walked down to the Rear D Commander's office. And when I walked down to the Rear D Commander's office with the deck statement, I guess the brigade commander had already had a conversation with him because he knew exactly what I was coming for.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I just need a signature right here. I said, "I'm done." And he said, "I respect it. I understand it. And I wish you the best." And that was it.
Damn.
The brigade commander talked to me on the phone one time after that, and I was I was done. So I had my clearing papers in hand about 6 or 7 days after I got back from Afghanistan, and I probably had 10 days in uniform before I was gone.
That fast.
That fast.
Holy
Yep.
shit. Now,
Yep.
did you have this conversation with your wife at all, or is it something that you were doing it because you felt was the best thing for you and your family?
It was the best thing for me and my family. We had the conversation after I made it home. I was never the greatest communicator while I was on deployment.
Mm,
And that was because I wanted everybody to be okay without hearing from me because I
yeah.
didn't know when it was going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
So I purposely, selfishly, was not the greatest communicator. And when I did communicate, I wanted to be all about positive things
Yeah.
because I wanted the last thing anybody to see from me was me smiling,
Yeah.
you know, me chilling. If that was the last conversation we was gonna have, I wanted it to be something that you could say we left it on a positive note.
Damn. So
That, but that was just me.
so you get out the army. I didn't know you got out that fast. You get out the
Yeah,
army. At what point did everything hit you? Like, I'm out the army. I'm losing my identity as an adult. You know, my young adult life. I'm in from 19, right? I lose my
yeah.
identity.
18.
18, I'm losing my identity as being a fucking combat hero, flight medic, doing all the sexy stuff. Now you're a regular civilian. At what point, if at any time, if it even happened, did like the mental health start? How'd you transition? Like, how was that whole process for you?
The transition was super easy. I had interviews lined up for me to go fly with, or for me to go interview with one of the air medical providers,
Mm,
Air Methods, before I ever left Afghanistan. So I already knew what date and time I was going to go interview
yeah.
for a flight paramedic job before I ever even made it home. So I was pretty good. I had a job offer from the Hospital Corporation of America as a part time or a full time, whatever I wanted, ICU nurse before I ever even left. And I knew that
Damn.
that job at that time, at I want to say it was 29, 28 dollars an hour or something like that, would cover the expenses in order for me to support my family. So I knew I was really comfortable with, oh, okay, I can support my family. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest worry. What my next biggest worry is being home at night. Now I know I can do that.
Yeah. Damn.
So everything else is icing on the cake. I went to the job interview for Air Methods. They called me. I don't know if I interviewed on Thursday. They called me Friday morning to offer me the job, um, and that required me to go out to Denver for a week and then come back and now I was working 24-hour shift, couple days a week, doing exactly what I was doing, just in the civilian world.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all the medical stuff, none of the BS,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? None of the aviation stuff, all of the medical stuff. Only the crew member stuff was what it was, which was the perfect world for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up working two jobs. I was flying as a medic and then working as an ICU nurse at night, a day or two a week. And I was flying two nights a week, two 24-hour shifts a week. So I was working, what's that, 60, 72 hours a week.
That's nothing compared to what we're doing in the army.
Right.
How
Right.
long?
It was
How long did
nothing.
you do that for?
I did that. So I flew from 2016 till 2021.
5 years.
2020, yeah, 2021 in the civilian world. So 7 years in the military, 5 years outside the military. And then 2021, that's when things caught up with me.
Hmm.
That's when things really caught up with me.
How did you notice? Like, all right, this shit's starting to catch up to me, and how did you notice something was wrong?
I started to make a couple some really uncharacteristic decisions
Hmm.
that I wouldn't normally make, right?
Now,
And and think
were these decisions influenced by alcohol or anything, or are they just like your
no,
mental health? Just okay.
no, no alcohol. It wasn't influenced by alcohol. It was just bad decisions that were just out of my character. And certain things just used to start to stick out to me, and I'm like, why did these stick out? Why do these things, like certain dates and numbers and
Hmm.
times, and and it hit me one day. It was a July 7th, matter of fact, and I was like, holy shit! Like, dude, you need to decompress. So combine the bad decisions with the numbers and the dates, and then just the things that I didn't deal with in the past,
Yeah.
and take, if you thought the military aviation air medical world was bad, the civilian air medical world is 7 times worse, right?
Holy shit.
Right, it is worse because those guys are really good, right? Those aviators can say no. Those aviators are really good at taking at accepting at what is acceptable risk. Those clinicians are phenomenally gifted,
Hmm.
right? They understand at a deeper level what it is that it takes to become a true flight medic, a flight nurse, and to really make those decisions that are going to impact somebody's life, not just at a superficial level. They deeply understand it, so they're good and know that they're good, but the humility and lack thereof is even more escalated.
Damn.
So the way to all of that was just like, yeah, I need some time for myself, and I need to get the hell away from all of y'all. And that's what I did. I said I need to get away from every bit of it.
Damn. Damn. So is that how you got into your position now?
No, I got out of the aeronautical world, and I went into the insurance world
Damn.
where I was working for
Selling
in
insurance?
no health, like health
Oh,
insurance.
okay, okay.
Yeah, health insurance, case management, and authorizations and stuff like that. So I did that for a little bit. That bored me to death, but it was the break that I needed
Mm-hmm.
from just being around a bunch of people that just weren't humble and were just elitist and just not nice. I need a break from 12 years of being around aviation and flight medics and flight nurses. I needed to get away from it.
Yeah.
So I got away from it for a little bit. Got a part time or PRN ER gig at the place that I'm at now, and that's kind of what led to this.
Yeah.
Right. So I did that very PRN, probably once or twice a month, while I did my thing at home, and I just kind of hung out with my kids, hung out with my dogs, and just found myself again,
I want to
which is
ask you
much.
I want to ask you a tough question, and you don't have to share if you don't want to. When you realized
Go ahead.
something wasn't right, did you seek help?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I said I can no longer take this by myself. Like this is too much. I need to talk this out with somebody, but I need somebody that hasn't been there.
Yeah.
And I just so happened to click with the right guy. He was from New York too, much older than me. Much led a much different life, but he got it.
Yeah.
He understood it, and he shot me straight. He was a realist with me as much as I needed him to be, to kind of call me on my BS sometimes, but also be like, all right, that's a valid feeling. Let's unpack that some. So he was valuable to me, telling me get through this.
Yeah. What advice would you give listeners, civilian, military, people that are struggling with taking on so much shit and figuring out at what point, number one, that it's okay to get help, and number two, at what point should they really get the help?
Never ever be afraid to take a knee.
Mm.
Never be afraid to take a knee. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. That's a sign of strength,
Yeah.
not a sign of weakness. Um, right? Being self-aware is something. Being humble is something that, when you're part of the fighting force, those aren't things that fighting forces do. Right? We're not self-aware. We can conquer everything.
Yeah.
Right? The same mentality that it takes to tell you that you can conquer anything, you can overcome any obstacle, is the same energy that leads you to being overconfident and lack humility,
Hmm.
which is a recipe. There's a balance in between there, and none of us knows it.
Yeah.
None of us can reach that without some help.
If that young Andrew Six came up to you today, or you saw him walking along, and he hit you up and said, "Hey, I want to be a flight medic," what would you tell him? And what advice would you give him?
Run in the other direction. Computers and
Yeah.
finance. But if you're going to do it, if you're going to say no and ignore me, do it the right way.
What is the right
Do it
way?
the right way. The right way is to surround yourself with opportunities to grow, surround yourself with humility, and lead with a purpose. That's what I would say.
Now,
Okay?
now
Understand.
the way you lead now, how many? First off, tell everybody what you do right now.
Right now, I'm a director of an emergency department in a community health system.
All right. How many people work for you?
62.
All right. How many patients or like, can you just tell us a brief description of what you do, like what your
Yeah.
scope is?
So the ER that I oversee operations in sees about 30,000 patients a year.
Damn.
Um, I have 62 employees. I oversee a provider group of about 25 providers. So really, you're talking about almost 90 people
Damn.
um, that are within my purview, plus the 30,000 patients. For the health system that we see, all of the admissions, not all, about 98% of our admissions come through the ED. So we feed the rest of the hospital with patients and throughput and revenue. Um, so it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty well-oiled machine, but we are the front door
Yeah.
uh, to that. So I'm accountable to for every aspect of it, right? Patient experience and finance and budgeting and operations, um, and to the rest of the community. So we work with the fire department, EMS, law enforcement, all the rest of the public safety folks. We work with all of those folks.
Nice. So I know you said you touched it just briefly a moment ago, but what you learned in the Army, especially in your leadership position and medically, how did you transfer that to your position and now? And how do you take the things that you learn and the values you want to instill in the people you lead to become to be known as a great leader? How do you do that today?
First and foremost, I believe in extreme ownership. Right?
Mm,
There's a lack of that in my mind. And when I say ownership, I don't mean that I mean like all the problems that we face are caused by me, but they're my responsibility to resolve.
mm-hmm.
Right? So there's not a problem, there's not a deviance that comes across my desk that doesn't stop with me resolving it. Until someone comes and says, "I'm going to take that from you." I got that.
Yeah.
You don't have to solve that one for me. I got it for you. That's my number one goal, right? Is to own everything. If something deviates from an expectation, it is my responsibility to solve it. Now, my responsibility doesn't mean that I'm actually the person that has to solve it. I
Mhm.
may need to lead somebody else or engage another person and say, "Why don't you? Can you help me out with this?" But at the end of the day, I'm accountable for it. Everything. Right?
Yeah.
Just as much as I'm accountable for the successes, I'm even more so accountable for the failures
Hmm.
uh, or for the shortcomings.
Yep.
And I think that's what's missing in a lot of leadership today.
I
Right?
agree.
We're quick to celebrate the wins, but we're not so quick to say that's a problem. Rest that on my shoulders. I got you.
Hmm. What motivates you now?
What motivates me now?
Yeah.
Man. So what motivates me now is watching young nurses put together things, right? I see we do simulation every quarter, right? And the simulation that we do is based on scenarios that we have encountered in the past, and so they're real life. It's not like I'm just making some stuff up. I'm taking, oh, this is a case where we didn't perform where we needed to. So I'm going to take that scenario and I'm going to make that into another scenario and make sure that every single nurse that I touch goes through that scenario by themselves and has to meet the objectives of that.
Hmm.
What motivates me now is the fact that we do that. And we just did it in October, 2 weeks ago. And two of the scenarios that were part of that whole training session, two of them played out the Monday after.
Wow.
And those nurses absolutely killed it.
Man.
One of them actually looked up at me and said, "You spoke this into existence. This is your fault." They said, "This wouldn't have happened if this wasn't your fault."
Uh,
And I looked at her, I said, "You're welcome. Now get your ass back to work."
there you go. How would you define success?
In what respect?
Back to our mortality thing. You
Six.
the man comes knocking at your door right now. I know you said what you said earlier, but I just want you to add to it or just, speak on it some more. The man comes to the door right now, comes get you. What would you have to do to look at him and say, you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm successful. Let's go. So how would you define success for you, for
For
Rahkeem?
me, success is knowing that if my number gets called right now, I could look back down on the lives that I've impacted, the clinicians that I've had the opportunity to influence, and know that they are able to make better decisions today because of what we went through collectively.
Mm.
Right? The fact that I can walk, if I walked away from my role right now, things would continue to operate like I was never even there, is a success.
Hmm. What would you tell? Two questions here. What would you tell 5-year? He'll say 8-year-old Rahkeem, and then what would you tell 18-year-old Rahkeem? You only had for the all right now, mind you, it's an 8-year-old. What would you tell this 8-year-old to motivate him, or what would you tell yourself when you were at 8 years old?
At 8 years old, what would I tell myself? Keep working.
Mm.
Keep working. No dream is too big, right? Keep working. Whatever that dream is, keep working towards it every day.
What would you tell the 18-year-old?
I would tell the 18-year-old to never quit.
Mm.
I would tell my 18-year-old self, do not quit. Do not give up.
That's deep. Is there any final thoughts you want to leave? Anything that you thought of, may have wrote about or thought about saying that we haven't talked about? Is there anything you want the world out there to know about you that you haven't spoke on, or any lasting words?
I would say that the thing that I want people to know or appreciate is the fact that um, what frightens us as individuals the most is our ability to be great,
Mm.
right? Our ability to be better than we were yesterday is what makes us timid. But that same ability to make that light shine, right,
Mm-hmm.
is the same ability it's going to take to motivate the next person to be just as great,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You never know who's watching. Somebody watching you be great, that might be the motivation for them to say, you know what? I'm going to do that too.
That's deep. What's next for you?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to ride this wave until I see what happens, right? Maximize this opportunity because I don't know what the next one is, but I'm gonna embrace that one when it comes to.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm gonna make as long as lasting of an impact on folks around me as I can until I can't anymore, and then see what's next from there.
Damn. I like that. You got any relevant projects going on?
So we just completed the overall big construction on the rest of our ED, our emergency department. We've got some more finishing touches to do. And then there's a potential affiliation with a larger organization, which I think could lead to a lot of growth
Mm-hmm.
for us and being able to serve the community with with more service line development. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know what that entails. I have zero clue as to what that
Yeah.
entails, but I know it's going to be bigger than what it is today,
All right.
and that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to.
Well, Rahkeem, I want to thank you, man. Personally, you and I talked on the phone. You hold a very special place in my heart. Quick story: Rahkeem and I, we had to land a Black Hawk, and it was the last 5 minutes of our duty day. We got a 9 line. The weather was bad. We had a very green crew. Well, very young crew chief, PI. Was senior aviator. He was a senior, medic on the aircraft. And him and I essentially had to land this aircraft, zero loom. There was a weather balloon on the LZ, mountain to the left, very tight, and it was dark as hell out there. What was the name of that area? I can't remember.
God, Tagab?
Tagab. And if anybody knows about the Tagab, that's probably one of the worst spots in Afghanistan as well. But we talked about it, and I just want to personally tell you, I thank you for that day, man. I don't know where I would be right now if it wasn't for you. I vividly remember that day was February 13th. It was close to us leaving. That's the day that resonates in my brain every day. It's one of them. It's probably like in my top 10. But it's just the amount of pressure and then we had to pretty much fly 50 feet over the mountain cliff because the mountain ridge, because the clouds are coming in on us to get to Bagram. So we had a lot going on that day. But personally, I want to thank you for your experience, all right, and stepping up. I mean, you took that initiative, and I impart that in a lot of people. Take initiative, man. People out there need your help. They need you to do a good job. But from a friend to friend, brother to brother, I always thank you for that. And you'll always hold a special place in my heart, man. And just know, anytime you need something, hit me up, man. We're only an hour away from each other. Hit me up. And I appreciate you for doing this and supporting me, especially.
I appreciate the opportunity. This has been. I don't think I've had this opportunity to reflect on my career until this moment, and I think I'm gonna sleep real good tonight, knowing that we've had this conversation. So I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too. Know that I'm a phone call away. You need anything, let me know, brother. I miss you. I love you. And just thank you for all the experiences we had together in the medevac. And it's something I'll never forget and always cherish.
I love you more when I have you wounded.
Thank you for tuning in to Heroes Have Wings, where we honor the extraordinary stories of grit, sacrifice, and resilience. Remember, every hero's journey starts with a single step, so take yours today. If you love this episode, like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep pushing limits, breaking barriers, and living your truth. I'm your host, Jason Santiago, and this is Heroes Have Wings, where legends rise.